Here we are, practitioners of the present moment. I have a reading today from Lao Tzu, 38, number 38 in the Wahoo Ching. Why scurry about looking for the truth? It vibrates in everything and not thing, right here off the end of your nose. Can you be still and see it in the mountain? In the pine tree, in yourself? Don't imagine that you'll discover it by accumulating more knowledge. Knowledge creates doubt, and doubt makes you ravenous for more knowledge. You can never get full eating this way. The wise person dines on something more subtle. They eat the understanding that the named was born from the unnamed, that all being flows from non-being, that the describable world emanates from an indescribable source. They find this subtle truth inside their own self and become completely content. So who can be still and watch the chess game of the world? The foolish are always making impulsive moves, but the wise know that victory and defeat are decided by something more subtle. They see that something perfect exists before any move is made. This subtle perfection deteriorates when artificial actions are taken, so be content not to disturb the peace. Remain quiet. Discover the harmony in your own being and embrace it. If you can do this, you will gain everything and the world will become healthy again. If you can't, you will remain lost in the shadows forever. Remain quiet. Discover the harmony in your own being and embrace it. If you can do this, you will gain everything and the world will become healthy again. Not quite sure of the level of numbness in my hands this morning. Let's see if this will work. Taking refuge, changing tracks. The world would have us take refuge in power, in success, in pleasure. Turn that on. And turn this on. Almost forgot completely. Turn this off. That's good. All right, let's see how it goes. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya. Here we go. The course is corrected. Raising the sails. Cast off all lines. Let's head here. Now, the ultimate destination, right here, right now. Let us come home to this mysterious aliveness, which is the body. It is alive, isn't it? It's nothing but life. The tinglings, the vibrating, the warmth and the coolness. And it breathes. It breathes in and it breathes out. There's also sensation where the clothing touches the body. The arms and the back and the legs. And there's the pressure of the body against the chair. And there's all the various activities of mind. Let us sit still and watch the story, the moment of our lives unfold. And we can be profoundly intimate with each breath. We can actually dissolve into each breath. It can become the center of everything. Each breath has its moment of emergence, of its beginning. It then has its lifetime and then its disappearance. If we were to bring awareness to opening in the hands, this cloud of sensations, and were to let go of the notion of hands, we would encounter life. At the mind door, there may well be thoughts. In fact, thinking could be dominant. The 5 hindrances often show themselves. They have the same capacity of spontaneously arising as does the breath. There is wanting, desire, craving. I want something. Or there is wanting not, disliking, the mind striking against the object. There can be restlessness, agitation, worry, remorse, a mind with more energy than it knows what to do with. Or the opposite, there can be no or little energy and sloth and torpor, sleepy dullness. And there can be doubt. Why am I even doing this? Can I do this? Does this work? Is this worth the effort? And there are also the quiet to huge storms of emotions. There can be self-pity or irritation or anger or sadness or loneliness or bliss and joy. There can be great equanimity. Whatever exists right now, exists right now. And we observe it arising and passing away. And so here we are, alive, present at the still point where everything happens. One breath at a time, one thought at a time. Awareness can notice the awakening from the dream state, from the state of fantasies and memories and plans. And maybe the mind is worrying, is creating an imagined future and then worrying about it. Or maybe it's toiling about some problem with a family member or a news item or a medical circumstance or who knows what. Maybe there's some old resentment that it likes to hang out in and create anguish over. The response of mindfulness is the content doesn't matter. What matters is the mystery of waking up. Right here, right now. And in this waking up, here's the breath. Here's the simple fact of knowing awakeness. And it's here that we find curiosity, where we find tranquility, where we experience equanimity. Sometimes our meditation might be filled with lots of thoughts. That's the weather of the moment. Other times there might be a great gap in the thoughts. And there could be just the aliveness of the body, from the tips of the toes to the legs, the thighs, and all of the life in the pelvis, the abdomen and solar plexus and the chest, the sacrum and the back, and the fingers of both hands and the thumbs and the forearms, and the upper arms and the shoulders. It can be the neck and the face, the lips and the forehead, the cheeks, the eyes. There's really a cloud of sensations, which is the living body, knowing or known by mindfulness. Aliveness manifests itself in so many ways. Through hearing, through imagination, thinking, and whichever part of the song of life we attend to. It always speaks the truth of anicca, impermanence. And let us remind ourselves of the sub-basements of the great theme, the great flavor of practice. I aspire to love and accept myself exactly as I am in this moment. And perhaps that wonderful mantra, I love you, with your own name at the end. I love you. I promise to take care of you today. I'll do my best to be mindful today. And whenever you encounter the inevitability of pain, discomfort that can be turned into suffering by the mind wanting something to be different, it is my intention to hold myself in sweet compassion. And of course, with this foundation of compassion for ourselves, whomever I encountered today, perhaps someone who is acting rooted in greed, hatred, and ignorance. Maybe someone who has not even the first inkling of how to be awake. I aspire to hold them too in sweet compassion. Doesn't mean we can't set limits. Doesn't mean we don't act firmly, even forcefully. Setting ourselves free, one breath at a time. May all beings everywhere share in the merits of our practice. I have a report from the front, which is that the decking is going onto the ramp today. It looks like a ramp. The painting in the living room is finished. I'm going to contact the carpet company to schedule the carpet. The new blinds for the living room are there, and I'm going to schedule the install for them. The installation for them. The lighting people want to be last, so no one messes with their lights. So the living room will be ready to go well before the building. It's quite exciting. And I think by tomorrow I may have an updated financial report balancing all of your very wonderful, generous giving to the emerging and emerged costs of things. It was a very nice experience yesterday. We had our meeting, and the play structure needed to be moved. It was in the way of the construction. And so PNC, the builder, said that this wasn't really their responsibility, so they would do it for a mere $600 or $800 if we couldn't do it ourselves. And so I took it upon myself, we'll move it this weekend. I actually sent out an email, and then I found an email late last night from Pete, the superintendent, and said, forget it, I moved it. So they had about 8 or 10 guys working yesterday. I think they just moved it, which was great. They're not going to charge us for it. They've been very generous. They've been incredibly generous. Things come up, and Derek, who's the supervisor from PNC, and he has said, I don't know how many times, we'll take it. That's in the budget. We'll take that. So it's been really quite a... Oh, and I want to sing their praises with one more thing. While I was away on my beach retreat, they had a 2-hour meeting with everybody that was on site, and they brought in a bunch of people that were on other sites, and they did a diversity, equity, and inclusion training for all the construction people. And they talked about they did some interesting processes I heard about, but really working to make racism not and harming each other really not part of the job site. Quite impressive, I think. So, Jim, I don't have any other announcements I wish to make. Is there something else I should? Or you should?
I don't think so. My workshop is the 20th, and Candle's next session is the 21st, so we've got some time to remind people of that.
Yeah. I will be absent for a few days again, just before Thanksgiving. Jennifer and I are flying to Florida, to Miami, basically, to pick up her mom and move her from a memory care place there to one here in Portland. Jennifer went to visit, and the memory care place in Miami is, well, when we got her safely out of there, she's gonna write a letter to the board that oversees such places, because it's full of neglect. It's quite remarkable. So, on that happy news, what's up with you? Is there anybody who wants to share something? I'm going to get to know my mother-in-law even better.
Robert.
Hi, Robert.
I hear
You go ahead. No, you go ahead.
It's Carol.
Hi, Carol.
Hi. Good morning. yesterday you had mentioned the book Being Mortal by Atul
Go one day.
Gawande,
Uh-huh.
which I haven't read, but I'm definitely looking forward to reading. I've been doing volunteer work at hospice, offering relaxation therapy and Reiki, and it's actually today is my volunteer day. But so this weekend I did some more hospice training, and one of the films that we saw was called What Matters Most, and it was about Atul Gawande's work with terminally ill people and his journey into how to be more compassionately honest with them when he was giving them a diagnosis. It began with him dealing with a young mom who had just given birth and who is in fourth stage of cancer, and how challenging it was for him to just offer her that honesty about where things were, just because of having this baby and knowing that she would no longer be there. But because the medical system, as we know, is so medicalized, the goal always is to try and prolong life. And he realized that wasn't always helpful, and people ended up suffering a lot more trying to go through different procedures instead of just being able to do what they needed to do at the end of their life, deal with all of the things that were important to them. And so anyway, it was a very inspiring film, just to see his journey through that and how he was able to come to terms with that and just be much more honest and compassionate in his dealing with people. So I do look forward to reading the book. And then another inspiring book that was on our reading list was Final Gifts. And I think maybe you had mentioned that one time in the past, because I already had it actually. But just the stories of two hospice nurses who were working with people at the end of their lives, and hearing their stories, and how we often, when we're with the dying, miss this messages that they're giving us about their imminent dying and what they're seeing at that time. And it was quite fascinating and enlightening how some of these stories, many people are talking about having to go, that they need to get their passport. They need their suitcase packed, and they get kind of frantic about this, and that so many times the people that are caring for them, including medical staff and family, just see this as, they've been too heavily medicated and they're just kind of losing it, and it creates a lot of anxiety all around. But that if we can be really mindful and present with them, that we can understand that they that this is their way of letting us know that they are about to leave. And once we reassure them and affirm what these thoughts, then they actually end up being able to leave very peacefully. And I guess the other thing about that was what was really kind of inspiring and reaffirming to me was the talk or the stories about, they would share about the visions that they would see at the end of life, and how no matter what religion they belonged to, or maybe they weren't even religious, they could be atheists, they would almost all of them in these stories had helpers who would come to them at the end of their life, and that were there for them. And so once again, being, if those around who are with them can be really present and mindful, that can help to ease them through that time, and also just help us, or help me anyway, when it comes to that time, to know. It just made me feel very a lot more peaceful about the whole end of life process. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you, and thank you for bringing that up yesterday.
Thank you, Carol. Hope you have a lovely day today in your work.
Thank you. Yeah, I look forward to it. I used to do relaxation therapy at the hospital in cancer care and medical daycare and surgical daycare before COVID, and no matter how I felt at the beginning of the day, it was always ended up being the best day of my week. So I do look forward to it. So, thank you all.
Thanks, Carol. And B.
You know, I had a question, Robert, but I wanted to just wait a minute because what Carol said was so rich. I didn't know if somebody else wanted to talk about that. And if not, then I'll ask my question, which can wait. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Well, I guess I'll come back.
Good.
But I'll just, before I ask my question, I'll say that I really appreciated what Carol said, and that it also resonated with me in terms of things that happened when my own mother died. So thank you, Carol. And then my question for you, Robert, is I've been thinking about kind of our mantra of I take refuge in the Buddha and the Dharma and the Sangha. And taking refuge in the Dharma, the teachings, that makes sense to me. I mean, that resonates, and the Sangha, that resonates. And I wonder how one thinks about taking refuge in the Buddha. What we're thinking about there as an atheist. I don't really think of an all-seeing being. So I don't know if the idea is taking refuge in a wise and compassionate teacher, or what one might think about that. Thanks.
One might think any number of things. And if one has been raised in or educated in the life of Siddhartha Gautama, who became the Buddha, and there's that whole story. And that's a sort of traditional thing. It's a sort of respectful, religious sort of practice in a way. But then as we go deeper, one thing we can do is change the archetype. And it could be I take refuge in Jesus, if that archetype holds for one, or in Kuan Yin, or I wrote a prayer for myself, I don't know where it is, even 30 years ago, and it began with "Most Merciful Is," which worked for me for a while, for a long time. So then as we get in deeper, what is that? What do we mean? And the meaning that I ascribe to it at this point is that there is something that is awake, which Siddhartha Gautama somehow, he described again and again how he accessed that, how he awakened to that truth. And that's the deeper meaning of I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in that which is the great mystery of awakeness, the great mystery of beingness. But it's not a person. It certainly isn't. I mean, it can be, I guess. It can be the old guy up in the clouds with the beard, and he's always white. At least for white people, there's all this religious structure, and that can be very useful to people at certain points in their practice. But then eventually that all falls away in practice, and there's the realization that it's what was it? Joseph Campbell put it really beautifully way back when he said, "Be sure to keep your symbols transparent to the transcendent." And I could do it here. Let me just stand up and grab something. Hi. Yeah, heavy. This, to my way of seeing, is an exquisite Buddha image. He's completely symmetrical. He's actually carved around. If you look at the wood, if you look at the bottom of the wood, the center of the piece of wood is right here at the front. They did that so he wouldn't split partially. But so here's this, and if we were in Thailand, he'd have to be higher than me, because you can't ever have a person higher than a Buddha. When you enter the room, you always squat down so you're not higher than the Buddha. And one could say that this is a sacred object. One could also look at it and realize, well, it's actually an exquisitely carved piece of wood, and there could be a circumstance in which its warmth would be, as fire, would be more important than its symbolic value, because it's a symbol. And then I have another. I have this lovely Kuan Yin that sits up there too. She's metal and beautiful. But Joseph Campbell would say, or did say, don't get stuck at the level of your symbols. Keep them transparent to the transcendent. And that which is Buddha is not this piece of wood that I'm holding, and this would be really bad. I'd get punished for this. Holding a Buddha by the head like this, a Buddha image, is just forbidden. But what does it stand for? And the deeper I go in practice and the longer I practice, the more a sense of reverence there is in me for that for which it stands, which ultimately has no symbol at all, has no words, has no name. It's just that which is. So, what do you think of that?
I'm not sure yet what I think of that. I feel a little tangled still. Transparent to the transcendent. I really like the alliteration, but I don't quite have it. But I do see what you said about the mystery of awakeness. I can see taking refuge there. That is something that I can feel. So it's helpful to me. It was helpful to me to not be thinking of it, because thinking of it as a deity or or for me, even a Jesus type figure, that doesn't work. So I think I've got something to work with, but I'm still a little confused, which I think is probably fine.
I think, because I don't think that mind can actually wrap itself fully with the mystery. We can't possibly cognize it. So that which is awake is a fairly close approximation for me. And then that makes sense of, well, what am I doing in this meditation? Again and again, I'm waking up. I'm taking that what to do with my one wild and precious life? What shall be what will I come back to again and again and again and again and again and again? I often remember, it's funny, When would this have been? It would have been 1980. 1980. I got a job working. I was doing, anyone in mental health winds up doing adolescent residential treatment at some point because they'll hire you, right? And a fellow took a job there. It was the Janus Youth Programs, and he came from California, as I recall. And I was sitting in my car. It was a sunny, hot afternoon, and I drove him to his apartment. And he needed about 20 minutes upstairs. And I sat in my car with the windows down. And I remember so fully, what was I doing? I was coming home to my breath. And the mind was wandering, and I was coming home to my breath. And the mind was wandering and waking up. That's 1980. Where are we now? 80, 90, 0. That was 40 years ago. And I was doing exactly what I'm doing still, which is in the midst of wandering minds, waking up and realizing that the mind is just doing its thing. It's impersonal, but there is that which knows it. And that's where I make sense of refuge in the Buddha.
Thank you, Robert. I appreciated that.
Stephen was the guy's name. But I remember that so clearly. Thank you for coming to practice with me today. It's really very strengthening, isn't it? Last call. When I said that, I remembered being in Australia, and the last call would come in the pub at night, and everyone at the table would order another beer, or maybe it was ridiculous. So everyone could drive home a little drunker. Crazy, crazy times.
I'll make one last call here.
Okay.
Can you hear me? It's Denise.
Hi, Denise.
Hi. I just wanted to comment that when you ring the bell the third time, or sometimes when you ring the bell the third time, I can't help but just laugh. And it it makes me think of when you were just, it's like Buddhists gone wild or something. And I have this vision of like now never ending. Mm-hmm. Like that, I don't know. Yeah, it just I can't help but laugh.
Buddhists gone wild. They rang the bell several times extra. Oh! Funny. Well, shall we go out on a song? Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam Sadhu Sadhu Sadhu.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye, dear friends. Have a lovely, safe day.
Thank you. Bye.
Oh,
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Sangha.
we have a dog
Thank
singing
you.
to us.
Thank you, dog.
Watch out for the barking dog.
All right.
Talk to the barking dog.
Goodbye, all. Have a lovely day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, B.
Bye, B.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Sherry.
Thanks.
Bye,
Janice.
everyone. Thanks for that answer.
Bye, Francine.
Ready to lift off?
Ready. I get to see Leanne in person today.
You do? How that's cool.
I know, I'm really excited.
Where will you do that?
She's coming to visit me at the farm.
Oh, how nice.
Oh, cool.
It's a nice thing on your background there. There's a hand with colors. What's that?
Yeah, Cam, my son actually made that, and it has the things say love, responsibility, dedication, respect. It's like the words from his karate creed. So
It's always so sweet when he comes in and hugs you.
yeah, I agree. I love it.
It's not ho hum another hug from my loving son. All right. Bye bye.
I love you all.
Thanks everybody. All right, dear friends on Facebook and YouTube, thank you very much for being here. May you have a fine, wise, awake day.